Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yep.
Yes, terrific. Okay. Um, it's amazing how much synergy there's going to be between what Debbie just showed and what I'm going to show. But it's because we're both in the health thing. Um, so it's good to be here. And I'm the educational designer for Leicester Medical School. And just to give a slight bit of context, I've got 1,300 students to look to support in learning, in digital learning. I've got 50 teachers at the university, and I've got 1,000 teachers out on the clinic. And so as COVID hit, that was really a thing. Okay, so I'm starting out by saying that what I'm showing you today, it's not just a COVID story. That's why I put COVID story, not a COVID story, asterisk. We went one iPad per student back in 2013. And you'll see through this how that as a digital platform enabled so much of what we were able to do. And it just sort of boosted us forward towards other digital things, such as the 3D printing that you see before you. This is a 3D printed brain that the students paints it up and labeled up, and you can see there's magnets there so that you can put it back together in the right shape. I run a staff student committee of technical innovations for learning, and the students get very creative, and this creativity is flowing into our regular curriculum now. Now, why did we go iPads? Students have phones, students have laptops. Um, the reasons are at the side there, and there's many more reasons. You can grab a stylus and scribble. You can draw. It's flat. It doesn't block your eye contact between, even in a lecture. The fronts of the laptops aren't hiding people's faces. When you've got an iPad on the clinic, it's seen as a lot more professional than taking out your phone. So, all these reasons is why we're still going this direction. Why did we want to go one iPad per student? Yes, somebody else mentioned Laura Lard's Conversational Framework. Exactly. And in that first upper left quadrant there, it's the conversation between the student and the teacher. And then the student is able to, if the student is able to kind of speak back to the teacher in some way and say what she understands that the teacher is trying to get across, then the teacher can correct her and we can make progress, or can demonstrate what's trying to be demonstrated. And so it's sort of just making that back and forth conversation happen, which is hard to do when we've got over 300 students in each year, and we used to have to lecture to them, and we still have to teach them in these huge numbers. So we used the iPads to get right away feedback. Now we use something called Top Hat. Maybe some people have used it. It's it's like Mentimeter. You can do the live stuff, but you can also do asynchronous. And this is just two screenshots from a phone where we're building this material, where you can watch the video and then you can start going through and answering the questions. And actually, it's almost like being able to easily build a bit of e-learning that works on your phone, which is easy enough that even a doctor can build. So that's how I see Top Hat. And it's quite back and forth. The student can check their understanding. ExamSoft is an online assessment, which, right, when COVID hit, we had to do online assessments. We had already been doing online assessments. We've been doing assessments on iPads summatively for at least 3 years, and we have started to use it a lot more formatively. So this is an example of an ExamSoft quiz where the student not only can see if they got it right or wrong, but then they've got quite a nice bit of text at the side giving them the rationale why the right answer is right and why the wrong answer is wrong. And that students love these so much, they would ask for these kind of quizzes and the Top Hat and other tools in staff student committee, and so we can keep the conversation going for the students. Yes, we tell the students that we want you to be digitally literate. As Health Education England came up with a digital capabilities framework, this is really useful to sort of press the case, not just with students, but with staff as well. And of course, we tell the students, look, guys, you're going to have any kind of technology in your professional life. You have to get used to it now, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's ugly. You got to be able to use it. Especially in the NHS, there's a lot of Windows 7 computers there. You got to be ready for that. um, okay, but when COVID truly hit, and yes, similar to the nurses, we had to prepare, our students had to go out into the front line. And yet their teaching was hindered. They were not able to learn in the clinics as they had been because clinics were getting shut down from COVID. So we had to start creating clinical teaching online, which was sort of a new thing. A lot of the clinical teachers in medicine just don't kind of vibe with online. It's like you got to see the person's face and you got to show them the patient. Obviously, medicine is a contact sport, but there are certain aspects of it which can be taught online. So we had to start parsing out what can be taught online, what can not be taught online. And we started to create these daily downloadable sheets that they could just bring onto their iPad. They were embedded. Click here, and you got the Choose Your Own Adventure, which was a hyperlinked PowerPoint of a case. You know, here's the patient. Check this, check that, and you can kind of check through and get to the end, and hopefully you've got the diagnosis. So we started to get quite clever with that kind of online learning. For earlier years of online learning, okay, guess what? Students could not go into the dissection room because of COVID issues. So this is actually a still from a 360-degree video. We've started to film quite a bit of 360-degree videos. Our anatomy head there was filming the cadavers in 360 degrees and showing students, here's this, here's the section, here's the stomach, here's the heart. I can't show that anything on here because of consent, etc. But I assure you it's been used heavily. We've also made use of the 360-degree printing, and we're now shipping out to all of the students a heart, a brain, and some other artifacts so that they can get used to the articulation of these things. Okay, now then, here's a modal thing. Here's a mode of teaching. What's blended learning? I've been talking about online, and I see online as sort of purely online, okay? But then you've got blended. So blended means you've got some face-to-face and you've got some electronic. Well, I'd say we've been doing blended, at least for 15 years, right? At least if you've had a VLE, you've been doing blended. But guess what? Not in the clinics, because as I said before, teaching medicine in the clinics kind of comes from apprenticeship model, and you have to be there. You have to be the teacher taking the student around to the ward rounds, and you've got to look at their face and tell them things, look at the patient, etc. However, it was time for me to try to get through to these clinical teachers, all 1,000 of them, that you need to be doing some online aspects and which are appropriate for online and which must be face-to-face. And that was the idea of the blended.
2 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. So some of our surgery professors started doing filming. You can see this is quite clever that they've cut in the skeleton so that they could explain and show more. And then we come to hybrid learning. So hybrid learning is where it's a synchronous teaching session, but some of the students are remote and some of the students are present, and the teacher has to be doing both the remote and the present. This was the way that we actually had to do because we teach in small groups, but as our students started going down with COVID, because they were going onto the wards, they still wanted to come in and learn. And so we started to teach in this sort of hybrid way. With the iPads, made it much easier. And so here's pictures of the students who are kind of isolating, but they were still able to connect through iPads to the rest of the group and continue their learning. Now that we are possibly going back to normal, whatever normal is, it's the time to take what we've learned and design our teaching. What mode can we do and when, and what pedagogical approach? I would actually put the what pedagogical approach first, and then say what mode is suitable, appropriate for each of those pedagogical choices. And those are my references. and that's how to get in touch with me. That's basically just a whistle-stop tour of guiding a whole medical school through before COVID, now COVID, and beyond.
Wow, you've certainly had your work cut out for you there, haven't you? Yeah, you've certainly been doing some work, I can tell you. It was a great presentation, thank you. I had a couple of questions actually. In fact, there's one in the chat first from Anonymous, and they've said, why didn't you use the virtual dissection applications that are available?
I think, this was sort of the, we had to go with what my head of anatomy was already comfortable with and familiar with. And he had already been working on 360-degree scanning and printing. And so what he started off by doing was kind of labeling up his scans and making those available on the VLE. So in a sense, he was making things himself, and as well as pushing to be able to get the students back into the DR as quick as he can. But yeah, I think it was his choice for his familiarity.
Great, thank you. We have another one here as well. How did your institution manage the staff for training using the iPads in teaching when they were first introduced? And they've also said, do staff have desktops as well, or is it just iPads? And they've also said, fantastic talk.
Sorry. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, of course, staff still have their computers. And in fact, most of our students also have their laptops. Very few of them only have the iPad. Yes, we did give iPads to the staff as well. And that was part of my job, was just to kind of familiarize the staff with teaching with the iPads. Basically what we did was we gave them iPads and we just told them, move into this. This is yours. Get familiar with it. It was their piece of kit. They could put their podcasts on, their music, whatever. And as they felt comfortable with that piece of kit, then they could kind of see how it could be used. So yeah, one thing that was really useful was that there's apps where you could take your iPad, you have your image, and you could just sketch over it. And I know you could do that with a computer, but it's just easier on an iPad or on a tablet, And so we had so many of our staff using this as a method. Okay, here's the stomach, your food goes in here, and he's sketching as he goes along. Or the anatomy teacher, in lectures, when we were all still together, he would say, okay, students, sketch with me. And they're sketching right along during the lecture. So yeah, it took time, but we just got them kind of familiar with it as their own tool first.
Brilliant, thank you. And I have one more question, if that's okay. We've just kind of touched on the staff training, which you've obviously given. Did you provide any training to the students with regards to digital literacy?
Yes, I do that at the beginning of every term. I meet all the first years. I have a blog called The Good Digital Doctor, and it's open to the world. It's on WordPress. You can find it. And so it's sort of like I just do digital medicine as like a vertical theme that runs through our teaching, similar to like interprofessional is kind of a vertical theme and some of these other themes. And so I just kind of keep sharing it out via YouTube and via my blog, and that links back into my VLE. But yeah, I meet all the students at the beginning of the year and I kind of show them the idea, like the basic uses of how to link the VLE and your iPad, and this is how it all works together, and this is how you save all your notes into Google so that you don't lose them, and etc. Yeah, and in fact, I put all that on our VLE and make it available to the students without any password before they even arrive at campus, so they could start getting used to the whole kind of infrastructure.
Yeah, that's good, thank you. I hope you don't mind. I've just shared your blog via the chat so everyone can have a look. I've just had a very quick look. It does look very good. Again, thank you again, and apologies again for getting the mix up between the two presentations there.
It is all good.